The association representing Toronto Police is launching a campaign now to draw attention to wage disparity in the sector. This after contract talks broke down and an arbitrator was called in.
Toronto Police Association President John Reid joins us live now to talk more about what he's looking for in these talks. John, thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about this campaign. These talks, the first time in 15 years that they broke down, and your campaign, if you look at some of the posters going out, it says, you know, it's a picture of a Toronto police officer, or an officer, I should say, and it says, "I'm going to go to work, just not in Toronto." So what is the message behind this campaign?
So first of all, thank you very much for having me today. The message is we're losing police officers. You know, for the last 8 months, we've been at the bargaining table. We've engaged a mediator to try and get this resolved with the City and the Police Services Board. But they are unprepared or unwilling to make this happen. You know, they put us in a position now where we have no choice to go to arbitration. But I can tell you, we had a membership meeting last night. Our members are furious. And this is a slap in the face to our members that the City of Toronto and the Police Services Board will not come to the table. And I lay this squarely at the feet of Ann Morgan, Shelley Carroll, and the mayor, who I've asked for help to try and get this resolved and got nothing back from them. And I think it's about time that the city come to the table, the mayor shows some leadership, and move forward with this. So what we're going to be doing is launching a campaign citywide to tell the citizens of Toronto that we need their help. We need them to have their voice heard. You're going to see thousands of ads through the TTC, through media, social media, to get people to understand if we do not stem the tide of officers leaving Toronto now and come up with a good, solid contract, our members deserve to be the highest paid here in Ontario, if not Canada.
John, can you put some numbers behind this in terms of that tide you're talking about of officers actually leaving the force? Do you have either a specific number or a sort of percentage of people that are leaving the force? You know, we've heard the ads that you put out recently in terms of like response times, you know, 17 minutes to get to an urgent call, that sort of thing. We've seen these posters now, but what are those numbers of officers leaving and how much does that leave the force depleted?
Yeah, so this year alone in 2024, we've had 60 police officers. So those are fully trained, experienced police officers that have left for other police services. Right now, we lost approximately 244 members last year to retirements. And of that, 50% of them left policing. And this is an issue here in Toronto. It's a larger issue across Canada, but particularly difficult now in Toronto. There's no reason why an officer would want to come to Toronto here, where you can go to another service just next door and get paid $5,000 more a year. It's unconscionable that what's going on in the city. Our members deserve some respect from the city and from this mayor.
And John, we also recently reported that, you know, 550 officers got injured this year alone. We've obviously seen an increase in violent crimes. Do you have an exact number or just kind of ballpark to what number you're seeking in terms of a raise? What is an affordable or a good salary for a Toronto police officer, and how far away are you from that?
So just dealing as far as this year for 2024, I can tell you the outlying services right now, if you start looking at Peel Region is approximately 113,000. London Police Service is 116. OPP, $116,000. These are all numbers which are market comparators. This is what the going rate now is for policing here in Ontario. And I will tell you, it's actually much more out on the West Coast. So our members are being reasonable with this contract. They're being fair. And all we're seeking, once again, is a reasonable wage and reasonable benefits.
John, I realize this isn't your problem, but I'm curious about the math here. We saw back in February how, you know, the police were looking for sort of a $20 million increase. The city was offering 12. There was a lot of back and forth there, and finally it did get to that $20 million. If your officers and you're successful in this arbitration and sort of boosting the police salaries here, what does that mean to the city's budget? And then what could that mean to policing? I mean, if suddenly you get this increased budget because you're paying officers more, would that just mean that the city would then have to cut officers because the budget is capped? People are curious around that part of this puzzle.
So I think, once again, you have to look at, you know, the whole notion of cutting this or that. This is something we've been trying to fight now with the city for years. They have to get away. It's got to be this and that. The reality is policing costs money, as any service does here in the city of Toronto. It's got more expensive. The city's grown by almost 13%. You know, if you look at the numbers from 2010, where we had about 204 officers per 100,000. If you use that same number in this day and age, we would have 6,700 police officers. That is how low and how far behind we are. We're so far behind right now that it's going to be almost impossible to catch up. And if we continue to lose trained, experienced police officers here in Toronto, it is going to have a devastating impact in the near future and very much on the longer term.
Very quickly, John, are you guys going back to the bargaining table anytime soon? Where are you in negotiations right now?
Right now, unfortunately, we're heading off to binding arbitration. We're always available if the city would come to us with a reasonable deal, and I would encourage them to come talk to us. We're open to having a reasonable conversation as far as a contract. You know, they have to look at the external services around Toronto, the GTA services, and look at those numbers. Those are reasonable numbers. Those are the market value for a police officer. And once again, I will say that although we've asked for our members here in Toronto to be the highest paid, that really is symbolic. Quite honestly, across policing, generally speaking, it ends up being with a few $100s. But I do believe that our members should be the highest paid in Ontario.
Okay, Toronto Police Association President John Reid joining us live virtually. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.